Oscar Piastri. What the f*** is going on there then? Now, I could make a video explaining the whole situation, however, let's be honest, every other F1 YouTuber under the sun has already done so I'm not going to waste your time handing out the same information with just a few awful or offensive jokes mixed in. What people aren't talking about, though, is the main casualty of this whole situation. No, not Otmar Safnauer's pride, Daniel Ricciardo. Hey there guys, I'm Will, and welcome to FP1. And as Fernando Alonso chills on the beach somewhere, he can relax, knowing he's caused one of the spiciest meltdowns since Grosjean's Haas in Bahrain. But one man who will definitely be feeling the pressure now will be McLaren's Daniel Ricciardo. If the Twitter rumours are to be believed, Piastri's new destination will be to replace his fellow Aussie. So where does that leave Daniel? Well, let's break down his options. So before we start, let me make something abundantly clear. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a massive Daniel Ricciardo simp, and always will be. So, while I'll concede that his performances for McLaren have been, well, rather underwhelming, I still hold the belief that the Woking team should carry some of the blame as well. I'll get into why a little bit later in the video, but if at any point I seem pissed at McLaren or just generally biased, that's because I am. With that out of the way, let's give a quick roundup just in case you somehow managed to avoid the drama by now. With Seb Vettel's retirement, his seat at Aston Martin became vacant for 2023. Now, you may be wondering who would be mad or perhaps stupid enough to make as poor of a career decision to work for Lawrence Stroll. But then you'll remember that Fernando Alonso's still on the grid, and poor career decisions are kinda his thing. So Alonso jumped ship from Alpine despite them expecting him to stay on for next season. But in reality, this is a blessing in disguise, as now they want to worry about finding a seat for their talented reserve driver Oscar Piastri. Except this isn't quite as easy as you might think, as prior to Fernando pissing off, Alpine wanted Piastri to stay at Williams for a year, then sidelined Fernando for 2024 to make room for the Aussie. Funnily enough, Oscar wasn't a huge fan of trundling around at the back all year, so along with his manager Mark Webber, they opened talks with who we now believe to be McLaren, about taking Daniel Ricciardo's seat for 2023. When Alpine caught wind of this, unsurprisingly, they weren't particularly happy, believing Piastri was under contract with them, so couldn't renegotiate elsewhere. However, Alpine's contract states that they have till July 31st to secure Oscar a seat, and then after that, he can go wherever he wants. Some believe this is why Alonso waited till then to announce his move to Aston. The guy's a crackhead, I can't complain. Anyway, Alpine decided the best course of action would be to confirm Oscar anyway, putting out the tweets and press releases, but no quotes from the reigning F2 champion. And that's because Oscar was asleep, having no idea that he would be a Formula 1 driver when he woke up the next morning. Now, I don't know about you, but if I woke up to find an F1 team claiming to have signed me for next season, I don't think I'd complain. But Oscar had other ideas, rubbishing the news on Twitter and seemingly confirming he'd be on the 2023 grid. Just not with Alpine. The whole situation is pretty crazy, and the fact that Alpine tried to pull off what Ganassi did with Palou only a few weeks ago in IndyCar is even more insane. I mean, how exactly did they think that was going to go? But provided the rumours about McLaren are true, you've also got to criticise them a little bit. I mean, they've signed Piastri, and combine this with the Palou drama, you've got a team with more drivers than they have race seats. Well, either that or Oscar is actually signed for the team's esports squad instead next year. It's also going to hurt for Daniel Ricciardo a little bit. The team have been backing him, especially in recent weeks, claiming they have no intention to switch drivers for 2023. Yet, as it turns out, at the same time, they were doing deals with Webber and Piastri. Then again, that is Formula 1 at the end of the day. Palou's contract with the team also seemed to suggest that there was a chance of an F1 opportunity. So unless there's a shock announcement of a McLaren B team on the horizon, I don't see how this all works out. Ricciardo as well hasn't received the best treatment for the team, especially in 2022. Now, before you get on me for being a simp, let me just explain this for a second. Some of the strategy calls, especially on Daniel's side of the garage, could be confused with those by Ferrari. Take putting Ricciardo onto hard tyres in Imola, for example. No one else was doing that for a reason, guys. The team also made the poor decision to switch to hards in Hungary, and if we're going to berate Ferrari so much for that, we might as well throw some shit at McLaren's door too. When it comes to unreliability, Ricciardo suffered way more here as well. Take his retirement in Saudi after running strongly all race, or his DRS failure that ruined his Silverstone weekend. After he couldn't compete with an unwell Norris in Spain, the team stripped his car down and found a fundamental issue. Though this doesn't explain all his poor form this season, it kind of feels like far too many mistakes for a team like McLaren's caliber. Anyway, I've rambled and complained enough, so if Daniel is ousted for Piastri, where exactly can he go? Well, on the F1 grid, there are realistically two options: the seat left vacant at Alpine, or Latifi's spot at Williams. Now, as I write this, the Williams team are expected to make an announcement this afternoon. We don't know exactly what this is, and I highly doubt it would be to sign Ricciardo, but if that is the case, then you just won't see this video. Let's be honest, Daniel's not going to Williams, but the Alpine drive might be a little bit more enticing. Daniel has obviously driven for the French team before, back when they were Renault between 2019 and 2020. but may have burnt bridges with the team when he jumped on the McLaren opportunity before he even began his second campaign with the outfit. That said, Otmar has said he'd be open for Ricciardo to return. Alpine still get a very talented driver, and as a Daniel fan, I wouldn't mind this either. The McLaren environment is just not working at all, and they're not going to waste resources tweaking the car around him, knowing 2023 would likely be his final year with the Woking squad anyway. Daniel Ricciardo already knows the Alpine team, and since he'd effectively be taking his old car back from Alonso, he'd likely return to a lot of the same engineers and pit crew from the Renault days. And let's not forget that Alpine are by no means a poor marquee. In fact, they're on level pace with McLaren, at least right now, and in fact, if you look at the points table, they're ahead of the Papaya outfit so far this season. But let's say Daniel doesn't want to continue in Formula 1. In fact, he's actually said that McLaren could be his last ever team. So what other opportunities are there outside of the pinnacle of motorsport? Well, I think there's two options here. IndyCar and, dare I say it, Formula E. God, my loyalties would be tested if he went there. Both of these avenues would allow Ricciardo to stay with McLaren if he wanted to, with the Formula E squad probably having more room to accommodate the Aussie. Out of these options though, I just have a feeling that Daniel would excel more in Indy. We've seen how the likes of Grosjean and Ericsson have excelled in the series, and Ricciardo could join as a favourite for sure. He's also a big fan of the States, so he would be a great marketing opportunity for any of the top teams. Not just McLaren. I mean, after Palou was sniped by Ganassi, they'll be looking for a new driver for 2023. And to be honest, Ricciardo could be a very good fit there. But looking at the other option and how he'd fare in Formula E is a little bit more of a mystery. He'd be joining at the same time as the new Gen 3 car, which may ease his transition with everyone having to learn how to handle the new machine, but I just have some underlying doubts, or maybe that's just my hatred for Formula E, who knows. But anyway, that's been a roundup of what the hell's been going on in Formula 1 this week, and where I think Daniel Ricciardo might end up in 2023. If I have to make a definitive call on it, I'm swaying between Alpine and IndyCar, but I'm going to settle with Daniel rejoining the French squad for at least one more year to try and save his legacy in Formula 1. I wouldn't be too shocked if he becomes the next Hülkenberg, however. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll try and join in on the discussion as per usual. If you did enjoy the video though, be sure to give it a thumbs up and get subscribed for more content like this in the future. I'm going to be posting a ton of stuff both here and on my new TikTok over August, and trust me, you won't want to miss any of it. Finally, a big shout out to all of my patrons that make all this work possible. And if you want to support the channel or just check out my other social media, the links for all that are down in the description below. But now that's all from me though. I'll see you soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.